Hello and welcome to week 6 of Synergy 1807 Digital Preservation. This week we're going to be talking about information packages. And really what we're going to be doing is stitching together some of the more basic ideas from the previous weeks about file formats and text encodings and things like that, and talking about why they matter. Why do we spend so much time talking about that stuff? Well, it's because we care about the stuff that comes into our organization, and because that will change the way that we manage it over the long term. And all of those things come together. We don't just get a single file out of the blue, we get a package of things. So what we're going to be doing is talking about some of the abstract ideas behind those packages, relating that into the overall OAIS framework that's coming up again. And we're using this all as an intro before we go into the case studies, where we talk about the specific application of these ideas depending on different types of content types. So the plan for this week is first we're going to be talking through the OAIS model, especially the ingest portion of it. Then I'll be introducing the information package idea from OAIS, specifically content objects and PDI. And then finally, I'll be walking through various parts of the ingest process in preparation for the case studies over the next 4 weeks. So first, let's start off with an idea of what is a typical collection workflow. Well, from the outside, if you had nothing to do with this business of cultural heritage management or media management or things like that, it basically looks a little bit like this. Well, first, we get some stuff. We get acquisitions, sometimes we call them, or we also get metadata about those acquisitions, but we get stuff in general. And then we provide other stuff. In a cultural heritage context, we provide collections, and we also provide descriptions about those collections. So from an external point of view, a organization like this exists in order to get stuff and then to later provide stuff based on the things that we got. We don't generate a whole lot. We are kind of a steward of those things that come through. So I'm going to make a diagram out of that. Here we go. We have somebody that made some stuff and they transferred that stuff over to our organization. Something happened. The public doesn't care or doesn't know. They don't really need to know. All they know is that at some point somebody can come to our organization and say, can I see that stuff? What stuff do you have? And we will make that available. We'll help them find the things in our collection, and then we will provide them the objects that they care about. So that's a very generalized model. It doesn't care about what we're doing on the inside, but this is a class a little bit about what's happening on the inside. And on the inside, what we're doing is we are actually have a few processes here. So we get the stuff, and then we need to do something in order to commit to that stuff. We need to be like, decide, is this packaged in a way that we can handle? Are there preservation risks involved with this stuff? Do we need to really retain all of these things? Are there things that came in that we don't really want, that don't make sense for our mission? Are there things that we can say about this stuff so that it can be easier to find, because we store a lot of stuff from a lot of places? So we do like an initial phase where we take control of it, often called taking intellectual control of acquisitions. And then after that, the stuff that we have decided to actually care about and to steward for the long term, we store that. We put that in a good storage location so that we can be sure that it is remaining stable over time. We take our descriptions, we store those, we put those in a system so that we can access them alongside all the other descriptions that we have. And then we hopefully build some sort of access system by which somebody can come in and say, hey, what stuff do you have? And look through our descriptions. And when they find the things that they need, they say, I want that stuff. Can you deliver that stuff in some way or some form? We might not give them exactly what we received. We might give them a transformed version. For example, if we got a DPX of a film, we might give somebody an MP4 because that is more convenient to them. But we are providing access to some form of the things that we acquired. So that's my generalized model for almost how any cultural heritage management organization works. And unsurprisingly, that generalized model comes from OAIS. So I'm going to swap the terms here from these stuff-based terms and definitions to OAIS terms and definitions. So instead of talking about doing something with the acquisition and storing the thing and making access, what we can say is we ingest. Somebody produces material for us. We decide to acquire it, so they transfer that material to us as a SIP, a submission of information package. We ingest that. After ingest, we have a description, and we also have an archival information package. We store those things in functions, and then when somebody comes to look through our collections, we provide them that descriptive information, and we also produce dissemination information packages for them. So it's a lot of OAIS terminology. Let me go through and define those things. So number one, we have the idea of an information package. And in general, you can think about that as the content that you care about and also supporting information that helps you manage that content over the long term, especially preserve that content. Secondly, we have the submission information package. So this is a kind of information package, but specifically it is the information package that describes the stuff that we receive. When we receive something in, we call that a SIP. When we have decided what we want to retain, we package that up and we call that an APE, an archival information package. And then finally, when somebody requests information and we provide that information to them, we call that a DIP, a dissemination information package. Now, all of these things sound extremely formalized, but remember that they are abstract concepts. They are things that people work with in various ways over time, and they really interpret them in different ways. So there is no such thing as a standard SIP format or a standard APE or a standard DIP. These are all contextual to your organization, and it's all something that you define. It's not something that somebody else tells you exactly how it exists. And they're also, I would say, even within the context of an organization, better to keep as slightly more abstract ideals rather than being stuck to a very specific definition of it, because reality is very messy. So people don't make perfect SIPs, even if you've defined something for you. Those are the information packages, or at least the three that OAIS defines. You can, of course, come up with different parts of a life cycle of some information and the PDI that supports it, and define a new kind of information package. But these are the three things that OAIS cares about: what you get, what you keep, and what you make accessible. Now, to manage those packages, we have a few functions. We have ingest, the thing that gets the SIPs and turns them into APEs and generates descriptions of those APEs. So this is how you take the chaos of the external world and turn it into the collection that you manage. Then you have data management. Well, that's where your descriptions sit. Here's how you take all of those acquisitions that you've taken over time and build the descriptions into a larger database or a larger data store that encompasses the full diversity of the material that you've collected. Similarly, for your APEs, you want to put those into a safe place. You want to take all of these APEs that you've created and come up with a standardized way to store them, or a few standardized way. You don't want to make up a new procedure every single time you get a new collection. Finally, you have dissemination, sometimes called access, and those are the processes by which you take the descriptions that you have stored and you provide access to those to users. And then you also have processes by which you can take the material that you've stored and transform that into materials that is accessible to users as well. So these are our basic concepts of OAIS. We'll continue to reiterate them through the next few weeks as we talk about processes. But first, I want to talk a little bit more about information packages. So we'll get into that.